when the cold needle pierced my arm. I could even clearly feel the blood flowing back along the transfusion tubing, then slowly being pumped into Suro's body beside me. The smell of disinfectant made me nauseous, but worse than that was the figure at the end of the corridor I had waited for 3 whole hours. My husband, Gut Tingshin. He was carrying a warming container in his arms, hurriedly walking towards Sue's VIP ward, not sparing even a sidelong glance for the blood donation room. 3 months had passed since I found out I was carrying twins, and ever since, Ginkson had put all his attention on the seriously ill Sue. Sue was his white moonlight, the person he treasured in his heart, while I, his legally weed Mrs. G, was merely a domestic help he picked up to plate the Gu's pressure to marry. He didn't know I was the daughter of the Shin group. He only thought I came from an ordinary family and was obedient, which is why he felt justified demanding. Then I made concessions for Suo again and again, even forcing me to donate blood for her while I was pregnant. Miss Shin, the donation is finished. You're newly pregnant and weak. You must rest properly, the nurse said as she removed the needle, her tone full of sympathy. Why didn't your husband come to accompany you? I smiled, my fingertips lightly brushing the small bump on my belly that hadn't yet shown, a place where 2 tiny lives had once lived, the hope I had insisted on keeping for. Good tension despite my family's opposition, but now that hope had been crushed bit by him and Suo. I stood up. The room swam dark for a moment, and I steadied myself against the wall for a long while before regaining my composure, my voice calm as if speaking of someone else's affairs. Nurse, please contact Dr. Leonstatrix. I have an appointment for surgery. The nurse froze, her eyes wide as saucers. Mission, what did you say? You're expecting twins having surgery at this stage. Yes, I'm going to terminate them. I cut her off, my tone without a hint of hesitation. These 2 children don't belong in a place without love before the nurse could say anything more. I was already holding the wall and heading toward obstetrics and gynecology. Each step felt like walking on cotton. The puncture wound in my arm still throbbed faintly, but the pain in my heart was worse. I remembered last night when I was violently nauseous, vomiting until bile came up while Gu Ting was in the living room on the phone with Suo, his voice so tender it could squeeze water out. Roro, I'll have Z donate blood tomorrow. Don't worry, your health matters most. I'll come keep you company first thing in the morning. At that time, I still clung to the last thread of hope, grabbing his sleeve and asking, Tining, the baby I'm carrying is yours. Can't you spend more time with me? He frowned and shook my hand off, his tone full of impatience. Z, why are you getting more and more unreasonable? Rur has a rare blood disease and is at risk of dying at any time. Of course, I have to stay with her. You're just pregnant. What's the big deal? Isn't there a nanny at home? Just pregnant. Yeah, in his eyes, neither I nor my child is worth a finger of Sue Rose. If that's the case, why should I keep these 2 children and let them suffer in the future? When I walked into the operating room, I glanced back down the corridor. Ji Tingshin still hadn't come. Good, that's fine, so I wouldn't have to see his face and soil my eyes. Meanwhile, in Sue's VIP ward, Gingshan was carefully feeding her birds nest porridge. Sue leaned against the head of the bed, her complexion paper white. Looking pitiful and fragile. Tingshin, it's really unfair to she, letting her donate blood while she's pregnant. Sue scooped a spoonful of bird's nest and brought it to Gutting's lips, her voice weak. Actually, I really didn't want to trouble her, but the doctor said, my blood type is special, and only G's blood type can match. Gingshan opened his mouth and took the bird's nest, reaching up to touch her hair, his tone indulgent. Silly, why say you're wrong to me? She's my wife. It's only right for her to do something for you. Besides, she's carrying my child. She's in great health. Donating a bit of blood won't be a problem. Sue lowered her head, the corner of her mouth curling into a barely perceptible cold smile, then raised her head again, her eyes even redder. But I still feel guilty. What if it affects the baby? What could happen? Gingshan waved it off unconcernedly. It's just a woman being pregnant. It's not that precious. You, on the other hand, must take good care of yourself. Your health is the most important. Just then, the ward door was slammed open with a bang. Gyuing's assistant, Shirao-chin, rushed in looking deathly pale, out of breath and trembling as he spoke. Gu, Mr. Gu, it's bad. Something terrible has happened. Gingin was startled by him and frowned, scolding. What are you rushing around like that for? Kentiti, you see Ruru is resting. Xiaowen was so anxious his whole head was sweating. He couldn't care about Gyuing's rebuke. He stepped forward, grabbed his arm, his voice cracking. Mr. Gu, it's the madam. It's Mrs. Shin. After she left the blood donation room, she went straight to the maternity ward and had your twins aborted. What did you say? Gingin sprang to his feet, shoved Xiaowen aside, his eyes full of disbelief. Xiaowen, say that again. Do you even know what nonsense you're talking about? Sue also sat up straight in shock. The bird's nest porridge in her hand fell to the floor with a clatter and shattered. She opened her mouth as if to say something, then swallowed the words back, covering her mouth with her hand. Looking stunned and sorrowful, Xiaowen staggered from Gingshin's shove. After regaining his balance, he hurriedly said, President Gu, I'm not lying. The nurse told me, and I went to the obstetrics department myself to ask. Dr. Li said it with his own mouth. Mrs. Shin just finished the surgery. The baby is gone. Twins gone. And Gut Tingshin felt a buzzing in his head as if something had exploded. He remembered that 3 months ago when he learned that Shinzi was pregnant. Although he hadn't been overly excited, he still felt some expectation. After all, it was his child and rare twin boy and girl at that. But he never imagined that Shinzi would dare to terminate his child without telling him. A surge of panic and fury swept over him. His legs went weak, and with a thud, he collapsed to the ground. His face, even paler than Sue Rose in the hospital bed. He opened his mouth, trying to speak, but found he couldn't even make a sound. He could only stare at Xiaowen, his eyes full of shock, anger, and a hint of panic. He himself hadn't noticed. Sue looked at Gu Tingshin, slumped on the floor, a trace of smugness flashing in her eyes before she put on a worried expression and struggled to get out of bed. Tingshin, what's wrong? Don't scare me. Why would Z do such a thing? Is there some misunderstanding? It took Gingshin a long moment to recover enough to force a few words from his throat. His voice was hoarse, as if sandpaper were rubbing it. Quick, take me to obstetrics in gynecology. I need to ask her. How dare she terminate my child? He tried to struggle to his feet, but his legs were as soft as if they had no bones, and he couldn't muster any strength. Shannon hurried forward to support him, urging as he helped Mr. Gu. Don't get agitated. Calm down first. Your health comes first. Calm down. How can I calm down? Genshin shoved Xiaowen aside, and his voice suddenly rose. That's my child. My twins. Who does she, Shensi, think she is? Daring to decide on her own to abort my child. I'm going to go settle this with her. I must get answers. He struggled like a madman, and with Shiakin's help, finally managed to stand, stumbling toward the ward exit. The cold wind in the corridor sobered him a little. His mind was filled with memories of Shinzi's usual docile obedience. No matter how he treated her, that woman never once complained. So, how could she dare do something so outrageous this time? Could it be that she was angry because he asked her to get pregnant and donate blood? But so what? She's his wife. Wasn't it only right for her to do something for his white moonlight over something as trivial as that? She actually aborted the child. The more Gyutening thought, the angrier he became, and his pace quickened. He had to question Shenzi properly. How could she have dared? At that moment in the obstetrics ward, I had just finished the surgery and lay weakly in bed. The nurse tucked the blanket around me, sighed, and said, Miss Shin, are you really not going to reconsider? Twins are so rare. I closed my eyes. A tear slid from the corner, and my voice was as soft as a whisper. No need. This is better for both of us. There were hurried footsteps outside the door, followed by Gutting Shin's furious roar. Shinzi, get out here. I slowly opened my eyes. a cold curve forming at the corner of my mouth. It's come. What had to come had finally come. The ward door was kicked open with a bang. Gewing rushed in like an out-of-crawl beast, and Chin behind him couldn't even hold him back. He saw me lying on the bed with a pale face, charged over with bloodshot eyes, grabbed my collar, and yanked me up from the bed. Shinzi, tell me, why did you abort my babies? Genshin roared, spit flying onto my face, the fury in his eyes threatening to swallow me whole. They were twins or children. Who gave you the right to decide on your own? The post-top weakness left me powerless. When he pulled me like that, a sharp pain shot through my chest. I couldn't help coughing. A little blood foamed at the corner of my mouth. The nurse, frightened, hurried forward to stop him. Mr. Gu, calm down. Miss Chin just had surgery. She can't be provoked. Get out. This has nothing to do with you. Gingshan shoved the nurse away roughly, his grip tightening a few degrees. Today I will get to the bottom of this. What were her intentions? He was choking me so I couldn't breathe. Yet I laughed instead, the laugh faint but laced with bone-deep chill. Gewing, you've finally come to see me. Too bad you're late. Our child was already killed by you and Sue working together. What nonsense are you talking? Gingshin's eyes hardened. You were the one who heartlessly aborted the child yourself. What does Roro have to do with it? Roro is so kind. How could she harm your baby? Kind. I laughed as if I'd heard the world's biggest joke, coughing as I reached for my phone on the nightstand and turned on the recording function. Listen to this. That's the kind Sua you keep talking about. The phone immediately played Sue's soft, garish voice, but it was laden with undisguised malice. Sister Z, I'm really sorry, but Tingshin has to be with me tonight again. You're pregnant, and it's inconvenient for you to get up at night, so take care of yourself. Oh, and I heard hawthorn and crab can cause miscarriage. You really mustn't eat them. Otherwise, Tingan would have reason to blame me for not warning you. Gingshan's expression shifted slightly. This recording was made last week. That day, Sua had come to visit me, but in reality, she came to show off how well Gutaning treated her, and kindly brought me a basket of fresh hawthorns. I felt something was wrong then, so I secretly turned on the recorder. This is just a misunderstanding. Roro didn't do it on purpose. Gingshan forced himself to sound calm as he defended himself, but the grip in his hands unconsciously loosened. Misunderstanding. I suddenly raised my voice, tears mixing with anger as they fell. Then let me show you this. I struggled to pull an ultrasound report from under the pillow and slapped it onto his face. This is last week's ultrasound. The doctor said the baby was developing well, but the day after Sua brought me those hawthorns, I started bleeding. I called you. What did you say? You said Sua had a fever and you couldn't leave and told me to call an ambulance myself. Ginshin went completely pale. He picked up the ultrasound report from the floor, his fingers trembling slightly. He remembered indeed answering my call that day, but Sua had clung to his arm and cried that her head hurt. And in a moment of weakness, he pushed my situation out of his mind and only let the nanny take me to the hospital. I stayed in the hospital for 3 days. Did you come to see me even once? I looked at him, my eyes full of disappointment and scorn. You sit by Sue's bedside every day, feeding her and washing her, but you can't be bothered to reply to a single text from me. Gingshan, tell me, am I your wife or your servant? What exactly is our child to you? I didn't mean to at the time. Gewing's voice weakened, his gaze beginning to dodge. Roro's condition was unstable. I really couldn't be in 2 places at once. Could not be in 2 places at once. I sneered, scrolling through more photos on my phone. Sue rose shopping at the mall, her drinking coffee with another man, all taken, when she claimed to be critically ill. Her condition was unstable. She can walk around in high heels for 3 hours, chat and laugh with other men, but can't feed herself or drink water without you. Gingshan, are you blind? All those photos were taken by the bodyguards at home. Although I had concealed my wealthy family background, how could a pampered mission possibly be without a few capable people around her? I had been immersed in so-called love before, and unwilling to use such means to monitor him and Su Ro. But now I wanted him to see clearly what the white moonlight he pined for really was. Getting stared at the photo, his body jolting as he shook his head in disbelief. Impossible. Roro wouldn't lie to me. I've seen her medical records, and the doctor said her condition was very serious. Medical records. I sneered. Do you think Su knows more people in the hospital than I do? That fake medical record of hers was made by paying 5,000 yuan to an intern. If you don't believe me, you can call the hospital director right now to verify. My words hit Ginshin like a sledgehammer. He suddenly remembered that Sua's medical records had indeed been somewhat unclear. At the time, he was only thinking about taking care of her and didn't give it much thought. Now that I pointed it out, all those doubts spring up at once just then. Su's weak voice came from the doorway of the hospital room. Tingshin Z sister, please don't argue. It's all my fault. Su leaned against the wall, pale-faced as she stood in the doorway, looking as if she had been terribly shocked and could faint at any moment. When she saw the photo in Gutting's hand, tears immediately fell. Tingshin, don't listen to Zia's nonsense. These photos are all photoshopped. I didn't. Whether they're photoshopped can be found out with a single check. I cut her off, my gaze cold. Suo, last Wednesday at 300 p.m. You bought a limited edition bag at the luxury store in Starlight Mall charged to Gouting, supplementary card. Last Thursday at 7:00 p.m. You were dining with a man in a suit at the Western restaurant, chatting quite happily. These surveillance recordings can all confirm that. Do you want me to pull up the footage now and show it to Gingshan? Su's face immediately went deathly pale. She looked at Guttingshin in panic and hurriedly explained. Tingshan, it's not what you think. That man is my cousin. He came here on a business trip. I just invited him to dinner. Cousin. I raised an eyebrow. What's your cousin's name? What does he do for a living? Where does he live? If you dare say a single word, I'll call and verify right now. Su was left speechless by my questioning, her lips trembling as she could not form a word. Gingshan looked at her panicked expression, then at the phone in my hand, and his doubts deepened. He released the hand that had been gripping my collar and staggered back a step. I fell heavily back onto the bed, the pain in my chest, making it hard to breathe. But I felt as if a huge weight in my heart had finally dropped. I looked at Guttingshin and slowly recounted the details he had overlooked. Gingen, when I first found out I was pregnant, I had severe morning sickness. I threw up everything I ate and lost 10 pounds. And you were in Su's hospital room, feeding her imported fruit, saying she was weak and needed nutrition. When I was 2 months pregnant, I had abdominal pain in the middle of the night and wanted you to take me to the hospital. You said Suwa was having a nightmare and needed someone with her, and told me to call the driver myself. The driver got stuck in traffic on the way. I waited by the roadside for an hour and almost had a miscarriage. And this time, Suwa said she needed to donate blood, and you didn't even ask whether I could handle it. You forced me to go. The doctor said you shouldn't donate blood in early pregnancy because it can cause a miscarriage. But you insisted I was fine and could give some. Gingshan, have you forgotten all of this? With each sentence I spoke, Gingxian's face grew paler. He remembered all of these things. At the time, his mind was full of Suwa, and he thought my concerns were trivial, not worth mentioning. But now that I was spelling everything out, he finally realized how cruel he'd been to me. I thought you would understand me. Gingshin's voice carried a faint, barely noticeable guilt. Ro had no parents since she was little. She's pitiful. I couldn't just ignore her. Pitiful. I laughed until tears came. Am I not pitiful? I was carrying your child and you treated me like a tool, sacrificing everything for your white moonlight. Gingshan, have you ever thought that I was also born to parents? I need to be cherished. I need to be loved. I took a copy of the divorce agreement from the bedside table and threw it in front of him. This is the divorce agreement. I've already signed it. Gingshan, let's get a divorce. Gingshan stared at the divorce agreement as if burned. Taking a step back, he suddenly raised his head, eyes full of shock. You want a divorce over these little things. Little things. I could hardly believe my ears to you. The wrongs I've suffered. The life of our child are all little things. Gingshan, you disgust me seeing this. Su hurried into Gingshan's arms, crying, Tingshan, don't divorce. Z, it's all my fault. I'll leave right now. I won't bother you anymore. She tried to walk away, but Gutheng grabbed her. Genshin looked at Su, who was crying her eyes out in his arms, then at me on the bed, weak, but with a resolute look, and fell into inner turmoil. He doubted Su, but so many years of feelings couldn't be severed so easily, and deep down, he still thought I was throwing a tantrum. If he just soothed me, I would forgive him. Gee, don't be impulsive. Gu, Tingshin's tone softened. We'll talk about the divorce later. You just had surgery. Rest well. I'll have the housekeeper make you some soup. No need. I don't need your fake concern. I closed my eyes, unwilling to look at his hypocritical face anymore. Either sign the divorce papers, or I'll file for divorce. Your choice. Gudening's complexion went from pale to flushed. He hadn't expected me to be so resolute this time. He looked at the divorce agreement, then at Suo cradled in his arms, and finally grit his teeth. I won't sign G. You are my wife for life. After saying that, he supported Suo and turned to leave the ward. He paused at the door, but didn't look back. He only said to Xiaowen, take good care of the madam. Tell me immediately if anything happens. The ward door was closed. I finally couldn't hold it in any longer, covered my face, and burst into tears. Not out of sorrow, but out of relief. I knew Gutting wouldn't let go easily, and the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I was already prepared. At that moment, my phone rang. It was my brother Shinsi. I wiped my tears and answered, my voice a little hoarse. Gu, how are you? Did the surgery go well? Shinsi's voice was full of concern. I'm already downstairs at the hospital. Which ward are you in? Hearing my brother's voice, my tears fell again. Back when I defied the family and hid my identity to marry Guttingshin. He had never felt at ease and often secretly sent people to check on me. This time I decided to terminate the pregnancy and get a divorce. And I told him first, brother, I'm Fine. I'm in the obstetrics and gynecology ward, room 302 on the 3rd floor. Not long after the call ended, the ward door was pushed open and Shinsai hurried in. Seeing my pale face, his eyes re-eamed with worry, he came forward and gently hugged me. Silly girl, why didn't you say sooner when you've been wrong so much? Brother, right now I only want a divorce from Duttingshin and to make him and Sue rope. I leaned against my brother's chest, my voice firm. I want them to know that I, Shinzi, am not someone to be bullied. Shinzi patted my back, his gaze cold. Don't worry with me here. No one can bully you. Gingshan and that Suro, I will make them pay dearly for what they've done. With my brother's support, I felt more confident. The private Dr. Shinza had just finished my checkup and softly advised, Mission Shin, you're deficient in qi and blood after the surgery. You must stay in bed and rest. And you mustn't get emotionally upset. I nodded, leaning against the soft pillow, watching my brother have the restorative supplements he brought placed into the ward one by one. My heart full of warmth. Brother, you can go back first. There are bodyguards and nurses watching here. Nothing will happen. I urged Shinsi to leave. His company still had a pile of things to handle. No need to stay here for me. Shinsi frowned and refused to go. I'm not at ease. Who knows whether Gingshan will come back with that woman and make a scene. No sooner had he spoken than the ward door was gently pushed open. Sue entered carrying a bowl of carefully simmered chicken soup, followed by a conflicted-looking Gutting. Seeing Shenzhei in the ward, Sua visibly froze for a moment, then recovered her frail act and timidly said, Sister Z, I heard you're weak, so I specially had the kitchen make you some chicken soup. Drink some while it's hot. Shinsi stepped forward and stood in front of my sick bed, his gaze cutting at Suwa like a knife. My sister's health is none of your concern. Besides, my sister isn't an outsider like you can bully. His aura was powerful. Sue flinched back, nearly spilling the chicken soup in her hands. Gining frowned and said displeasedly, Sir, watch your words. Roro meant no harm. He was still defending Sue. Clearly, last night's doubts hadn't fully sobered him. No harm. Shinzei sneered, picked up the phone on the table, and played a recording. Then, listen, Is this what you call no harm? From the phone came a conversation between Su Ah and a strange man, the intern doctor who had fabricated her medical records. Miss Su, if this fake medical record is found out, I'll lose my job. 5,000 yuan is too little. The man's voice was greedy. Su's voice turned sharp. Cut the crap. 5,000 yuan is already a lot. If you dare tell anyone, I'll have Guing shut you up about Mr. Guham. He's an idiot, completely played by me. That Shinzi is stupid, too, pregnant and still obediently donating blood for me. Once I marry into the Gu family, she'll be the first one I kick out. The recording cuts off abruptly here. The ward fell deathly silent. Gutting's face was ashen as he stared fixedly at Suah, his eyes full of incredulous rage. The chicken soup and Suah's hand clattered to the floor, scalding broth splashing onto her feet, but she seemed not to notice, her face as white as paper. Ro, is this real? Gingshin's voice trembled. He was still clinging to the last shred of hope. No, Tingshin, don't listen to their lies. This recording is forged. They're framing me. Su lunged forward to grab Guttingshin's hand, but he flung her off violently. Framing you. I sat up slowly. Shinzi immediately stepped forward to support me. I looked at Su with a cold gaze. Su, do you think you did this flawlessly? That intern doctor has already been fired by the hospital, afraid of taking responsibility. He confessed and implicated you long ago. And the secondary card statement for the bag you swiped at Xinyuan Mall last week. I had it printed. Want me to show it to Gut Tingshin? Gut Tingshin snapped a look at Su Ah and demanded, the supplementary card I gave you was for buying nutritional supplements, and you used it to buy luxury goods. He remembered every time Su said she had no money, crying and begging him to buy this and that. And the anger in his chest erupted like a volcano. Su panicked and hurriedly explained, Tingshin, I didn't mean to. That bag was on sale. I just couldn't help myself for a moment. On sale. Shenzhe took out a receipt and tossed it in front of Su Ro. A limited edition Hermes priced at 280. 000 you call that on sale. Gingshan, look at the white moonlight you keep idolizing. She's just a gold-digging woman who's been cheating you out of your money. Gingshan stared at the receipt. His fingers clenched with anger until his knuckles turned white. He remembered how he had used a lot of the company's funds to treat Suah, even taking out loans from the bank, while Suah squandered the money on luxury goods and courted with other men. There's more. I signaled for Shinzi to take out the other file. Su, you're not an orphan at all. Your parents are alive and living in a small suburban town. You claim you were sickly as a child, but your parents say you used to climb trees and raid bird nests. More mischievous than the boys. What? That was their plot against you. 2. Shenzi had unearthed all this in one night. The Shin family's influence in the city ran deep. Digging up Su's background was as easy as snapping fingers. Su's psychological defenses completely collapsed. She slumped to the floor and wailed, Tingshin, I was wrong. I was really wrong. I loved you so much. I was afraid you'd leave me. So, I lied to you. Forgive me this once. I'll never do it again. Love me. Gingshan sneered, anger turning to laughter. Your so-called love was cheating me out of money, playing with my feelings, and causing the death of my child. Su, you make me sick. He stepped forward, slapped Sua hard, the crisp smack echoing in the hospital room. Su turned her head from the blow, and blood immediately seeped from the corner of her mouth. She looked at Guttingshin in disbelief. The man who had always obeyed her completely was actually hitting her. Gutting, you actually hit me. Su screamed, I'll fight you. She lunged at Gut Tingshin like a madwoman, clawing at his face and clothes. Impatiently, Gingshin pushed her away. Su lost her balance, and the back of her head struck the corner of the wall hard, and she fainted on the spot. Tingshin, I faint a startled cry, covering the smile at the corner of my mouth with the blanket. She had brought this on herself. It was no one's fault but hers. Gingen panicked. 2. He hadn't expected Su to be knocked unconscious. He crouched down, checked her breathing, and breathed a sigh of relief. She's still breathing. Called the doctor quickly. The nurse arrived quickly and carried Suo away on a stretcher. The ward fell silent again. Gining stood where he was, like a deflated balloon, his face full of fatigue and remorse. He slowly came to my bedside, his voice as he said, "Z, I'm sorry. I know I was wrong. Could you give me another chance?" A chance? I looked at him, my eyes showing not a ripple of emotion. "Ginshin, when you had me donate blood to Sue while I was pregnant, why didn't you think about giving me a chance? When I was bleeding and hospitalized, and you stayed in Sue's room, why didn't you think about giving me a chance? When our child was gone, the first thing you did was question me instead of worrying about me. Why didn't you think about giving me a chance?" Each question hit Gutenshin like a hammer, pounding hard on his heart. He kept his head down, unable to meet my eyes, his voice full of guilt. "I know I've done a lot of wrong things before. I'm a jerk. I'm no good. But Z, after all these years together, do you really have to be this heartless? Feelings." I laughed, laughing until tears came. "Gingshan, you're talking to me about feelings. Did you ever have feelings for me? You married me only because I was well-behaved and obedient and could help you deal with the Gu family's rush to get you married. The one you have feelings for Sue, no matter if she lied to you or played you. You never left her in your eyes. I've always been just a tool." Shinsi chimed in from the side. "Gingshan, my sister is not wrong. Your regret now is only because you found out Suo is a fraud and you've lost the child. So, you're looking for a way out. I'm telling you that's impossible. My sister isn't someone you can just discard when you feel like it and then take back when it's convenient." Gingshan looked up, staring at Shinsi, suspicion filling his eyes. "Shinsei, your surname is Shin. Could you be Shenzei of the Shin Corporation?" He finally reacted. Shinsi's name was thunderous throughout the business world. Shinsi raised an eyebrow and said proudly, "So, you have some sense." "That's right. I'm Shenzei of the Shin Corporation, and Z is the jewel of Russian family. You thought you married a woman from an ordinary background. Gingshin, you're not worthy of my sister." Gyuing's eyes rounded in disbelief as he looked at me. "Tsu, are you the eyes of the Shin Corporation?" He recalled how he had treated me, the things he'd made me do, and a cold sweat immediately soaked his back. The Shin Corporation was more than 10 times more powerful than the Gu Group. If he'd known my identity earlier, even with 10 times his courage, he wouldn't have dared treat me like this. "What? Now that you know who I am, you're starting to be afraid?" I sneered. "Too late, Gyuing. Between us, there is nothing possible except divorce." A mixture of emotions churned in Gutting's chest. Shock, fear, and a sliver of relief he hadn't even noticed in himself. He was relieved he hadn't completely alienated Shinzi. If the Shin Corporation wanted to go after the Gu Group, it would be a piece of cake. "Z, I know I'm wrong. I really know I'm wrong." Gyuing's tone grew even more submissive. "If you're angry, hit me, scold me, anything. Just don't divorce me if you want to get back at Suro. I'll help you. I'll make her pay. No need. I'll avenge my own grievances." I closed my eyes, not wanting to argue with him any longer. "Leave. I'm tired. I'll have the divorce papers delivered to your company by my lawyer. You'll sign them whether you want to or not." Gingen wanted to say something else, but was coldly cut off by Shenzei. "Didn't you hear my sister say she's tired? Get out." Gingshan met Shen's icy gaze, dared not linger, and could only turn and leave the ward in disgrace. As he reached the door, he silently vowed that no matter what he would not divorce Shinzi. He was willing to pay any price to win her back in the ward. Shinzi looked at me with concern and said, "Z, why waste words on someone like that? Have the lawyer sue him directly. Brother, I'm going to make him sign the divorce willingly, and I'll make sure his reputation is destroyed." I opened my eyes, my gaze full of resolve. What he owes me, what he owes. Our child, I will take back bit by bit. Shenzei nodded. "Okay, I'll do whatever you say. However you want to handle it. I support you. By the way, Mom heard about what happened to you and nearly went crazy. She insists on coming to the hospital to see you, and I can't stop her mentioning Mom warmed my heart and made me feel a little guilty. Back when I hid my identity to marry Guttingshin, she was strongly opposed. Now that I've suffered such wrongs, She must be heartbroken. Let Mom come. I miss her, too, I said softly. It wasn't long before Shin's mother hurried over. As soon as she entered the ward and saw me, tears fell from her eyes. She quickly walked to the bedside, took my hand. My dear daughter, how did you have to suffer so much? It's all Mother's fault for not stopping you back then and letting you marry that bastard. Mom, I'm fine. Don't worry. I leaned into my mother's embrace, feeling the warmth of her arms, and all the grievances in my heart welled up at once. Shin's mother wiped her tears. Her gaze turned icy. That Guting Shin and that vixen. I will never let them go. I've already had someone look into the Gu Corporation's background. As soon as we find their dirt, I'll see to it that the Gu Corporation goes bankrupt. With my family's support, I felt even more confident. I knew that Gingshan and Su's good days were over. Meanwhile, Sua woke up and upon learning that Gyudingshin knew her true nature and had even hit her, trembled with anger. She was unwilling to lose Gingshin as her benefactor like this, and even more unwilling to be trampled under Shenxi's feet. Her eyes flashed, and a vicious idea formed in her mind. She took out her phone, dialed a number, and said in a cold, vicious voice, "Hello, do me a favor." Mother Shin stayed with me in the ward the entire afternoon, cutting fruit for me and telling me amusing family stories to cheer me up. Seeing the new strands of white in her temple filled me with guilt, and I vowed to myself that I would never let her worry about me again. In the evening, Mother Shin was taken away by Shinsai, and before leaving, she specially instructed the bodyguards to keep a close watch on the ward and not allow Gingshin or Suo anywhere near me. I lay in bed and had only just closed my eyes when I heard a gentle knock on the ward door. "Who?" I asked wearily. "Z, it's me, Gingshin." Gingshan's low voice came from outside the door with a touch of ingratiation. "I brought you dinner, the private, home-cooked place you used to love." I snorted coldly and said to the bodyguard at the door, "Tell him to leave. I don't want to see him." The bodyguard immediately stepped forward and said to Gingshan outside, "Mr. Guys does not want to see you. Please leave." "Z, I know you're still angry. Open the door. Let's talk this out." "Okay." Gyuing's voice carried a hint of urgency. "I really know I was wrong this time. I sincerely want to make it up to you." I couldn't be bothered to argue with him. I picked up my phone and dialed the lawyer. "Lawyer Zhang, could you come to Central Hospital right now? I have something I need you to handle." Not long after, there was another knock on the ward door. This time it was Lawyer. Lawyer Zhang is the chief counsel of the Shin Group, experienced in having handled countless complex commercial disputes and divorce cases. He entered the ward and gave me a respectful nod. "Miss Shin, you called for me." "Lawyer Zhang, you're here." I gestured for him to sit. "I want to finalize the divorce as soon as possible. I'll leave Getting's side to you." Just then, Gingshan actually pushed past the bodyguards and barged in. He was carrying a thermal container. When he saw Lawyer Zhang, he froze for a moment, then understood and said, "Z, are you really so eager to divorce me? What else?" I looked at him, my gaze. "I see. Do you think I would continue living with you?" Gingen set the thermal container on the bedside table, walked to me, took a document from his briefcase, and handed it to me. "Z, this is the share transfer agreement for 20% of Gu Corporation. I've already signed it. If you forgive me and don't divorce me, those shares will be yours." He thought he could buy me with shares. How naive. Lawyer Zhang took the share transfer agreement, glanced at it, and sneered. "Mr. Gu, who are you trying to fob off here? Miss Shin is the eyes of the Shining Group. These shares of yours are nothing in her eyes." Gyuing's expression shifted slightly. He knew the Shin Group was immensely wealthy, but he hadn't expected the shares he offered to be so belittled. He gritted his teeth and took a property deed from his briefcase. "And this villa in the city center was bought before our marriage. I'll transfer it to your name as well. Z, as long as you don't divorce me, I can transfer all my assets to you, company shares and property included." "Gingshan, do you think these things can make up for the hurt you've caused me?" I looked at him, my eyes full of derision. "Do you think I, Shensi, need these things? I know it's not enough. but I really don't know what else to do to get your forgiveness. Gutting's voice carried a trace of desperation. Z, I know I was wrong. From now on, I'll treat you well and never let you suffer any more grievances. Treat me well. I laughed so hard that tears came to my eyes. Good Tingshin, your treat me well means letting me watch you and Sue rode dude on each other, letting me carry your child and donate blood to your white moonlight, letting my child die in vain. Your apology is too cheap. I don't want it. Lawyer Zhang chimed in beside him. Mr. Gu, Miss Hin's meaning is already very clear. She is determined to divorce you. According to our civil code, if one spouse commits bigamy, cohabits with another, perpetrates domestic violence, abuses or abandons family members, etc., the innocent party has the right to claim damages. You cheated on your spouse with Su Ro and subjected Mission to psychological abuse that led to her miscarriage. Miss Jin has every right to require you to bear the corresponding legal responsibility. Gooding's face instantly went deathly pale. He hadn't expected me to have the law ready. He hurriedly said, I didn't cheat. Sue and I are just ordinary friends. Ordinary friends. Lawyer Zhang produced a stack of photos and slapped them in front of Gingshan. These photos were taken by our private investigator in them. You and Sue are intimately embracing in a hotel and even entering and leaving the Civil Affairs Bureau together. Do you still dare say you're just ordinary friends? Gingshan looked at the photos and his body jolted. The angles were extremely sneaky, capturing his intimate actions with Sue Ah in clear detail. He hadn't expected that I had already sent someone to follow him. Also, Lawyer Zhang took out another document. This is the financial statement of Gu Corporation. We found that over the past 3 months, you transferred $5 million from the company account, using it to buy luxury goods for Sue Ah and to pay medical expenses. These funds are marital property. By appropriating them on your own, you have infringed on Miss Hin's lawful rights. Cold sweat formed on Guttingshan's brow. He hadn't expected that I'd investigated his company's finances so thoroughly. He hurried to explain. That wasn't appropriation. It was a temporary loan. I planned to return it once the company's cash flow improved. A temporary loan. Lawyer Zhang snorted. Mr. Gu, your conduct already constitutes embezzlement. According to our criminal law, embezzlement of a relatively large amount is punishable by up to 3 years imprisonment or criminal detention with fines. A huge amount is punishable by 3 to 10 years imprisonment with fines, and an especially huge amount is punishable by over 10 years imprisonment or life. Imprisonment with fines. The $5 million you appropriated already meets the standard of a huge amount. Gutting expression changed completely. He hadn't expected his actions to violate the law. He looked at me, his eyes full of plea. Z, I really didn't know it would be this serious. I didn't mean to. Can't you? For the sake of our marriage. Let me off this time. Let you off. I looked at him, my expression without a ripple. When you made me give blood to Sue while I was pregnant, did you think about letting me off then? When you embezzled our marital assets and let Sue Ah squander them, did you think about letting me off then? Gingshan, saying this now is too late. I know I'm wrong. I really know I'm wrong. His voice quivered with sobs. Z, as long as you don't report me, I'll agree to anything. I can leave with nothing. Transfer all my assets to you. Your assets. I raised an eyebrow and signaled Lawyer Zhang to take out another document. Gu Tingshin, do you think your assets are still there? This is a certificate of asset transfer. The day you forced me to give blood to Su Ro, I already had Lawyer Jean transfer our marital assets, including the properties, deposits, and stocks under your name into my name. As for the shares in your company, they were bought through channels of the Xing Group back when you were embezzling funds. The Gu Group may still be yours in name, but in reality, I am already the largest shareholder. Gu. Tingan stared at the proof of asset transfer in disbelief, his fingers trembling, barely able to hold the document. He suddenly looked up, his eyes full of shock and anger. You planned this all along. That's right. I planned it long ago. I admitted without hiding anything. From the first time you asked me to make concessions for Sue, I was already disappointed in you. The only reason I hadn't exposed you sooner was that I was waiting for the right moment. Now the time has come. Gingshan felt the world spin. He had never imagined Shin-zi could toy with him so completely. He had always thought Shin-zi was a mild, obedient woman, but he hadn't expected her to be so calculating, having set such a huge trap long ago. Why? Gut Ting Shin asked hoarsely. We were husband and wife. Why do you have to be so cruel to me? Cruel. I laughed, laughing until tears came. Gingshan, what you did to me, that's cruelty. I was carrying your child and you treated me like a tool, sacrificing everything for your white moonlight. Our child was gone, and not only did you feel no guilt, you even tried to buy me off with money. You think I'm cruel to you? Then you deserve it. At that moment, Ginshin's phone rang. It was the company's finance director. He took the call with trembling hands, and the director's anxious voice immediately came through. Mr. Gu, bad news. The company's accounts have been frozen. Our cash flow is blocked. Also, Shin Group just issued a notice saying they have acquired 51% of Gu Group shares. They are now the largest shareholder of Gu Group. Guing's phone fell to the floor with a clack. The screen shattered. He collapsed into the chair, his gaze hollow, murmuring, "It's over. Everything is over." Lawyer Jean looked at him coldly and said, Mr. Gu, you should understand now that Miss Hin is not someone you can afford to provoke. If you know what's good for you, sign the divorce agreement quickly. Otherwise, what awaits you will be not only ruin and disgrace, but also prison. Gutening lifted his head and looked at me, his eyes full of despair and reluctance. He knew he no longer had any bargaining chips and could only be manipulated by Shin-zi. I'll sign. Ginshin's voice was her sorrow. I can sign the divorce papers, but can you promise me one condition? Speak, I said coldly. I hope you can spare Gu Corporation. It's my father's life's work. There was a pleading note in Ginjian's voice. As long as you spare Gu Corporation, I'll agree to anything. Gu Corporation. I raised an eyebrow. That's your father's life's work. What does that have to do with me when you embezzle company funds? Did you ever think about your father's legacy when you ruined the company for Sue? Did you ever think about your father's life's work? Gingshin saying this now is far too late. Guing's face went even paler. He knew there was no hope left. He trembled as he picked up the pen and signed his name on the divorce agreement. Lawyer Zhang put away the divorce agreement and nodded at me. Miss Shin, the paperwork is complete. Next, we can proceed with our plan to restructure Gu Corporation. Good. I nodded and looked at Gutting. Gingshan, from now on, we have nothing to do with each other. Take care of yourself. Gingshan didn't say a word. He just slumped into the chair, his eyes hollow as he stared at the floor. He knew his life was completely over. At that moment, the ward door was pushed open and Sue Rose's best friend, Lin, now rushed in. She saw Guing's distraught look and then glanced at me, immediately understanding what had happened. Pointing at my nose, she angrily scolded. Shin-zi, you vicious woman. You actually stole Tingshin's company and forced him to divorce you. You'll get your comeuppance. Comeuppance. I sneered. I'd like to see who gets it first. Linda, do you think I don't know what you and Sue did? Sue sent you to the pharmacy to buy abortion pills to make me lose the baby. Surely you haven't forgotten that. Lina's face went instantly pale. She hadn't expected that I would know about this. She hurriedly tried to explain. I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't. No. I motioned for Lawyer Zhang to take out a recording. This is the call between you and Sue. It clearly records your conversation. Also, I have the pharmacy surveillance footage. Tell me if I hand this evidence to the police. What will become of you? Linoa's legs went weak and she collapsed to the floor. Her voice trembled as she said, Miss Chin, I was wrong. I really was. Sue forced me. I didn't mean to. Please let me off this once. I won't dare do it again. Let you off. I looked at her, my gaze cold when you helped Sue hurt me. Did you think about letting me off then? Lin, neither you nor Sue is getting away. Lawyer Zhang stepped forward and said to Lin Na, Miss Lin, you are suspected of attempted intentional homicide. We have already called the police. They will be here soon to take you away. Lin turned ashen with fear, crying out, "No, I don't want to go to jail. Miss Shin, please forgive me. I'll tell you everything." Sue not only deceived Mr. Gu, she was involved with a rich second-generation heir who gave her a lot of money. She used that money to buy many luxury items. And Suo, fainting this time, was totally staged. She wanted to win Mr. Gu's sympathy. Gingan suddenly lifted his head, his eyes filled with shock and fury. "What did you say?" Roro was faking it. "It's true." Linda sobbed after Sue came to. "She told me it was staged and asked me to spread rumors saying you broke up with her because Miss Hin forced you to trying to ruin your reputation." Gewing's body trembled violently. He hadn't expected Suo to have deceived him for so long. Even faking a faint, he thought of everything he had given for Sue, of the child he had lost, of the state he was in now. Anger and regret welled up in him, threatening to consume him. Sue, getting shouted angrily, sprang to his feet and bolted out of the ward like a madman. He was going to hold Sue accountable. Lin looked at Guttingshin's retreating figure, then at me, trembling all over with fright. Before long, the police arrived and took Linny. The ward fell silent again. I leaned against the pillow and let out a long sigh of relief. Lawyer Zhang looked at me respectfully and said, "Miss Shin, everything has been within your plan. Next, we only need to wait for the reorganization of the Gu Corporation to be completed, and you can officially take over Gu Corporation." "Good," I nodded, my eyes full of determination. "Lawyer Zhang, thank you for your hard work. I'll entrust the rest to you." Lawyer Jean left the ward. I lay on the bed looking out at the night sky. The stars were bright and the moon was full. I knew my life was about to begin a new chapter. As for Gewing and Suo, their nightmare was only just beginning. Gingshan bolted out of the ward like a madman. The nurses and patients in the corridor were startled by his appearance and hurriedly got out of his way. There was only one thought in his head: to find Suo and make her explain why she had lied to him, why she had destroyed everything he had. Sue's ward was on the next floor. Gingan sprinted all the way, not even waiting for the elevator. He reached the door, kicked it open, and saw Sue leaning against the headboard, video calling someone on her phone, a smug smile on her face. There was no sign of weakness. Roro Ginjin shouted, his voice filled with fury and despair. Suo was startled, hurriedly ended the video call, and when she saw it was Gewing, her face immediately took on a wronged expression. "Tingshin, why are you here? Why do you look so pale? Did that woman, Shinzi, bully you again?" "Bully me?" Gingshan closed the distance, step by step, the fury in his eyes almost burning her to ashes. "Sue, how can you still have the nerve to say that? Tell me, was your fainting an act? You weren't really gravely ill, were you?" Sue's expression shifted slightly. Her eyes darted about in panic as she avoided him. "Tingshin, don't listen to others' nonsense. I didn't. Gingshan grabbed her wrist, his grip strong enough to nearly crush her bones. "Lin already confessed. She said your fainting was staged just to win my sympathy. You even had her spread rumors to ruin my reputation. Sue, how could you do this to me?" Sue cried out in pain where he pinched her, tears immediately falling. "Tingshin, let go of me. I really didn't. Lin was paid off by Shensi to deliberately frame me. You have to believe me." "Believe you?" Gingshan laughed bitterly with rage. "It was because I trusted you too much that I ended up like this. My company is gone. My assets are gone. My child is gone. All of this is thanks to you." He abruptly threw Sue's hand away. She lost her balance and fell off the bed, grimacing in pain, looking at Guttingshin's cold eyes. She realized this time she truly couldn't keep lying, so she gave up trying to cover it up. She got up from the floor, pointed at Guttingshin's nose, and cursed, "Gwinning, stop acting pitiful here. What do you think you are? If you weren't stupid, how could I have fooled you for so long?" "What did you say?" Gewing looked at her in disbelief. "You idiot." Sue's voice shot up. "I've long seen that your marriage to Shinzi is a joke. You don't love her at all. You love me. That's why I dared treat you like this, because I knew you couldn't live without me. Who knew you'd be so useless, unable to even hold on to your own company, getting played around by that woman. Shinzi." Yu Genshin trembled with anger. raising his hand to strike her. Stop! At that moment, a sharp voice came from the hospital room door. Mrs. Gu, leaning on her cane and supported by the nurse, stormed in. Seeing the room in disarray ensue, Rose's arrogant face. She gripped her cane so hard it nearly slipped from her hand. Mom, what are you doing here? Guing was stunned. He hadn't expected his mother to come to the hospital. Madame Gu ignored him and walked straight up to Sue, appraising her from head to toe, her eyes full of disgust and anger. So you're Sue, that vixen who ruined my son and killed my grandchildren. Sue was intimidated by Madame Goose's intensity and took a step back, forcing herself to stay calm. Aunt, you've got the wrong idea. Ting Xin and I truly love each other. It was that woman Shinzi. Shut up. Madame Gu cut her off sharply. I haven't even asked you, and you dare slander my daughter-in-law. I know exactly how good Z is. If it weren't for you, that Vix, and sowing discord, why would Ting Xin treat her so badly? Why would my 2 little grandchildren be gone? Madame Gu had long known about Gut Ting Xin and Sue's relationship, but she had previously thought Sue Ro a pitiable girl, and out of respect for her son's feelings hadn't interfered. It wasn't until yesterday when she heard that Shinzi had aborted twins and that Gu Corporation had been taken over by the Shin Group that she hurried to have people investigate, and that investigation uncovered Sue's true nature after learning the truth. Mrs. Gu was so angry she nearly fainted. She never expected her son to be so foolish, deceived head over heels by a gold-digging woman who not only ruined his wife, but destroyed the Gu family fortune and even failed to protect his own grandchildren. Auntie, I really didn't. Sue tried to protest. Didn't Mrs. Gu sneered, took a stack of documents from her bag and slapped them onto Sue's face. These are the proofs of you forging medical records. These are the bills showing you spent Tinshin's money on luxury goods. These are photos of you fooling around with other men, and you still dare to say you didn't. Staring at those documents, Sue's face went deathly pale. She collapsed to the floor and couldn't utter another word. You shameless vixen. The more Madame Gu looked at Sue, the angrier she became. She raised her hand and slapped her hard. How did the Gu family ever attract something like you? Not only did you swindle my son's money, you caused him to lose his child in his company. Today, I will teach you a proper lesson. As she spoke, Madame Gu picked up her cane and began to strike at Suo. Terrified, Suo cowered and fled, covering her head while crying, "Help! Guing, please save me." Gingen stood to one side watching the scene, feeling no pity. On the contrary, he felt vindicated. He finally understood how foolish he'd been to hurt Shensi and their child for a woman like this. Mom, stop. You'll break her hand or dirty your cane. Genshin stepped forward and blocked Madame Gu. Madame Gu gave him a fierce glare. You're still defending her. If it weren't for you, this unfilled son being foolish, how would the Gu family have fallen to this state? How would my 2 little grandchildren be gone? At the mention of the twins, Gudding's expression instantly darkened, his eyes full of guilt and remorse. Mom, I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. What's the use of knowing you're wrong? Can the children come back? Can the company be restored? Madame Goose's voice was full of disappointment. You will go with me now to apologize to Z and beg her to forgive you, and that Vixen must disappear from our sight immediately. Gut Ting nodded. Mom, I'll do as you say. He looked at Suo, his gaze. I see. Sue, pack your things and leave now and never show up in front of me or my family again. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless with you. Sue knew she no longer had any backing. Guing would no longer protect her, and Madame Gu hated her enough to want her dead. She didn't dare stay any longer, hurriedly scrambled to her feet and ran out of the ward in a mess. Watching Sue Rose's disappearing figure, Madame Gu exhaled deeply, then said to Gingshan, come with me to see she. Guing hesitated for a moment. Mom, she doesn't want to see me right now, whether she wants to or not. She'll see you. Madame Gu him a glare. You ruined her like this. Don't you even dare apologize. Today you must go with me and properly beg Zai's forgiveness. If she refuses to forgive you, you'll kneel at the ward door until she does. Gingen had no choice but to follow Madame Gu toward Shensi's ward. He felt both guilty and anxious, unsure whether Shensi would forgive him at that moment in Shanxi's ward. Shensi was sitting with her and talking. Seeing Madame Gu and Guing walk in, Shensi's expression immediately darkened. Madame Gu, Mr. Gu, or Z does not want to see you. Please leave. Madame Gu ignored Shensi and walked straight to Shinzi's bedside. Looking at her pale face, she was full of remorse. She sighed, slowly bent down and bowed to Shinzi. Z, I'm sorry. I failed to raise Tingshin properly and let you suffer such a great injustice. Rest assured, I've already reprimanded that she-ox, and she will never dare to bother you again. Shinzi was taken aback. She hadn't expected Madame Gu to suddenly bow and apologize. Her relationship with Madame Gu had always been distant. Madame Gu had not treated her as poorly as Gingshan had, but she had never truly cared for her either. Madame Gu, you don't have to do this, Shinzi said calmly. Gingshan and I are already divorced. What happened between us is in the past. You can remarry after divorcing. Madame Gu hurriedly said, Z, I know you've been hurt. If you're angry, hit Tingshin, scold Tingshin. Do whatever you want as long as you forgive him and return to his side. I guarantee that Tingshin will never treat you badly again. Also, although the Gu group was acquired by the Shin group, if you come back, I'll make Tingshin return the company to you. Madame Gu now regretted it deeply. She had previously not known Shinsi's background and thought her family was ordinary and unworthy of her son. Now that she knew she was the Shin family's heirs and saw that she had purchased the Gu group, she finally understood how foolish her son had been and what a wonderful daughter-in-law he had missed. All she wanted now was for Shinzi to forgive Shin and remarry him. If Shinzi would return, the Gu family could not only keep the Gu group, but also form a marriage alliance with the Shin group, and the Gu's business would surely reach new heights. Madame Gu, you're too naive, Shin sneered. My sister suffered such a huge grievance. How could she possibly forgive Gyuding so easily? Besides, Gu Corporation was acquired by my sister through her own efforts. Why should it be returned to Gyuding? Gingshan stepped forward as well and said to Shensi Z, I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Give me one more chance and I will make it up to you properly. If you don't trust me, I can write you a letter of guarantee. From now on, I'll give you my payroll card and bank cards to keep, and I will never associate with any other woman again. Make it up. Shinzi looked at him, her gaze completely calm. Gingshan, do you think you can make up for the child I lost? Do you think you can make up for all the wrongs I suffered? Your letter of guarantee is worthless to me. I Gu. Tingshin was left speechless by her questions, only able to lower his head, his face full of guilt. Mrs. Gu, seeing this, hurriedly said, See, the child is gone, and we are all very sad, but you're still young. You can have another child in the future, as long as you and Tingshin remarry. I will take good care of you and make sure you can have a smooth pregnancy and delivery. Have another child. Shinzi laughed, tears coming to her eyes. Madame Gu, do you think I would still give Gu Tingshin another child? When I was carrying his child and he forced me to give blood to another woman when my child was gone and he only thought about that woman, do you think I could forgive him? Mrs. Gu was left speechless, only able to stand there awkwardly. She knew Shinzi was truly heartbroken this time. Getting her to forgive Genshin was almost impossible at that moment. The hospital room door was pushed open and a man in a suit walked in. He was the general manager of the Shin group and Shenzei's trusted assistant. He went up to Shinch and spoke a few words in a low voice. Shinsei nodded and said to Shensi, Zwa was stopped by our people. She still tried to run. Should we bring her in? Bring her in, Shensi said calmly. I have some matters to settle with her. Gumu and Gyuing were both stunned. They didn't know what account Shensi still wanted to settle with Suo. Before long, Suo was escorted in by 2 bodyguards. Her hair was disheveled, her clothes torn, and she looked a mess. When she saw Shinzi, her eyes were filled with fear and anger. Shinzi, what on earth do you want? Sushchauti dangrali. You've already ruined me enough. Won't you let me go? Let you go. Shinzi looked at her, eyes cold. Su, you caused my miscarriage. stole Guding's money, and ruined my reputation. We haven't settled those accounts yet. Do you think you can run away? I didn't cause your miscarriage. Su screamed. You were the one who heartlessly aborted the child yourself. It has nothing to do with me, nothing to do with you. Shinzi signaled to her bodyguard to bring out a piece of evidence. This is the hospital's forensic report, proving that the abortion pill you had Lin Na buy for me severely damaged my body and directly caused my miscarriage. Su, do you dare say this has nothing to do with you? Su stared at the appraisal report. Her face instantly went deathly pale, and she collapsed to the ground, unable to utter another word. Madame Gu and Gingen stared at the appraisal report, both stunned. They had not expected that Shenxi's miscarriage would have been abetted by Su Ro. You poisonous woman. Madame Gu trembled with rage, snatching up her cane to strike Suo again. Today I will beat you to death if I have to. Madame Gu, don't be impulsive. Shinzi stopped her. You don't need to dirty your hands dealing with someone like her. She looked at Su, her eyes filled with cold, murderous intent. Su, you are suspected of attempted murder, fraud, and defamation. I have already gathered all the evidence. What awaits? You will be the full force of the law. Suo turned ashen with fright, crying out, No, I don't want to go to jail. Miss Shin, I was wrong. I really was. Please let me off this time. I won't do it again. Knowing you were wrong now is too late. Shinzi said coldly. Bodyguards, take her away and hand her over to the police. The bodyguards immediately seized Su and walked her out of the ward. Su's cries faded farther and farther away until they finally vanished at the end of the corridor. Silence returned to the ward. Madame Gu looked at Shinzi, her eyes filled with admiration and guilt. Z, I was blind before and wrongly accused you. Rest assured, no one from the Gu family will bother you again. Gingshan also looked at Shinzi, his eyes full of despair and unwillingness. Z, I know it's too late for anything I say now, but I still want to tell you, I really regret it. Shinzi said nothing, only closed her eyes, not wanting to look at them anymore. She knew this matter was not over yet. There was the restructuring of Gu Corporation and many other things waiting for her to handle. But she also knew her path of revenge had already achieved a phased victory. Shinzi looked at her and said softly, Z, don't overthink it. Get some good rest. Leave the rest to me. The day after Su was taken away by the police, Shinzi completed her discharge procedures. The car sent by Shinj took her straight back to the Shin family old residence. The magnolia in the courtyard were in full bloom, and the butler and servant stood at the gate to greet her, calling Miss so often it made her nose sting. Mississippi, you're finally back. Both sir and madam have been waiting for you for days. The housekeeper took her coat, his eyes full of concern. The kitchen has made your favorite bird's nest and white fungus soup. I'll have someone bring it up right away. Shinzi shook her head, held a banister, and headed to the study. Leave the soup for now. I'm going to talk to Dad about something. She knew the Gu group matter couldn't be delayed. The sooner it was resolved, the fewer troubles would follow. Mr. Shin was in the study reading documents. When he saw Shinzi come in, he immediately put down his pen and rose to meet her. Z, are you feeling better? The doctor said, you need plenty of rest. Dad, I'm fine. Shinzi sat on the sofa and accepted the warm water her father handed her. I'm here today to talk about the Gu group. I've asked Lawyer Jean to prepare a restructuring plan for Gu Group, but I need you to make a few calls to our partners on my behalf. Father Shin nodded, his eyes full of support. Do whatever you want. Your father supports you. That brat Gu Ting Shin dares to treat you like this. Our Shin family absolutely cannot let him off. Don't worry, I know those partners. If I make one call, they'll surely do me this favor. Sure enough, that afternoon, Gu Corporation faced its first storm. First, a long-term building material supplier suddenly sent a letter terminating cooperation, citing concerns about Gu Corporation's operational risks and a decision to stop cooperation to protect its own interests. Immediately after, several major real estate project partners also called one after another, explicitly stating they would withdraw investment. The atmosphere in Corporation's conference room was suffocating. Ginshin sat at the head of the table, his face ashen as he looked at the piles of letters on the table, his fingers gripping a pen so tightly his knuckles turned white. "What's going on?" Gingen slammed his hand on the table, his voice full of rage. "We've worked with these suppliers and partners for so many years. How can they just terminate cooperation like this? Can anyone give me an explanation?" The marketing director stood up trembling. "President Gu, we've already asked around, and those suppliers and partners all said they received hints from the Shining Group that if they continued to cooperate with us, it would affect their relationship with the Shining Group." The Shin Group, Gewing's body jolted. He never expected Shinzi would go so far as to directly use the Shin Group's power to suppress the Gu and President Gu. The finance director entered the meeting room looking pale, holding a financial statement. "Our company accounts have been frozen," the bank said someone reported us for alleged embezzlement. "They need to investigate before they can unfreeze them." "What?" Gingshan sprang to his feet, snatching the report from the finance director's hand. Seeing the words "account frozen" on it made his head spin. The company accounts being frozen meant the company's cash flow was completely crippled. They wouldn't even be able to pay the employees' salaries. "President Ge, what do we do now?" a shareholder asked anxiously. "If we can't turn the funds over, several of our projects will have to stop work, and the penalties for breach of contract will be astronomical." "Yes, President Gu, when we invested in the Gu Group, it was because we believed in its prospects. Now that the Gu Group has become like this, our interests are not protected at all." Another shareholder agreed. More and more shareholders began to complain, and the conference room fell into chaos. Gingshan looked at these shareholders who had once flattered him. Now, one by one, they showed their greedy and selfish faces, filling him with anger and despair. "Everyone quiet down." Gingen slammed the table. "I know the company is in trouble now, but as long as we work together, we can get through this. I've contacted the bank. They said if we provide sufficient collateral, they can unfreeze the account's guarantee." "Where are we supposed to get any guarantee now?" A shareholder sneered. "Mr. Gu word that you diverted company funds to buy luxury goods for Suwa has spread throughout the business world. Who would dare provide a guarantee for us?" Now at the mention of Suwa, Gewing's expression darkened further. He knew everyone was now blaming the crisis at the Gu Group on him and Sue. He wanted to explain, but found he had no way to do so. At that moment, the conference room door was pushed open and Lawyer Zhang walked in. He carried a document, strode straight to Gingshin, and said coldly, "Mr. Gu, this is for you from Miss Shin." Gingshan took the document puzzledly, and upon opening it was stunned. The paper stated that Shensi, as the largest shareholder of the Gu Group, had proposed an extraordinary shareholders' meeting to discuss the group's restructuring plan, which included dismissing him from his position as chairman. "What does Shensi think she's doing?" Gu Tingshin shouted angrily. "She's already bought shares of Gu Group. Isn't that enough? Does she have to try to wipe me out completely?" Mr. Gu Misin is simply exercising her rights as the majority shareholder. Lawyer Zhang said coolly, "According to Gu Group's articles of association, a shareholder holding more than 51% of the company's shares has the right to propose calling an extraordinary shareholders meeting and to present a restructuring plan. I won't agree to it." Gu Tingshan slammed the document to the floor. "Gu Group is my father's life's work. I will never let Shinzi destroy it. Mr. Gu, this isn't a matter of whether you agree or not." Lawyer Jean picked up the papers from the floor. "The extraordinary shareholders meeting will be held in 3 days. All shareholders will attend and vote on whether to approve the restructuring plan. I advise you to prepare yourself." After Lawyer Zhang finished speaking, he turned and walked out of the conference room. The shareholders in the room looked at one another, their eyes full of hesitation and wavering. They knew that Shinzi was now the largest shareholder of the Gu Group, and with the Shin Group as her backing, her restructuring plan would very likely pass. "Mr. Gu, I think we should consider Miss Shin's restructuring proposal," one shareholder said cautiously. "The Shin Group is very powerful if we can gain their support. The Gu Group might even be able to survive." Yes, Mr. Gu. Another shareholder agreed. In this situation, only Miss Hin can save the Gu Group. Don't be stubborn. For the Gu Group's sake, and for the interests of us shareholders, please accept Miss Hin's terms. You, Gingen, looked at the shareholders in disbelief. You would betray me when my father founded the Gu Group. Each of you was dirt poor. It was my father who gave you the opportunity to become wealthy. Now that the Gu Group is in trouble, you want to abandon me and side with Shinzi. Mr. Gu, you can't say it that way. A shareholder sneered. We invested in the Gu Group to make money, not to go down with you. Now that the Gu Group is in this state, if we don't ally ourselves with Miss Shin, are we supposed to wait for bankruptcy? More and more shareholders began to agree, and some even directly proposed withdrawing from the Gu Group. Genshin watched the scene before him, filled with despair and anger. He hadn't expected to end up betrayed and abandoned by everyone. After the meeting, Gingshan sat alone in the empty conference room, watching the traffic outside the window, his feelings mixed. He recalled what his father had said to him before he died. Tingshin, the Gu Group is your father's life's work. You must manage it well. Don't let it be ruined by your hands. But now, the Gu Group was about to be ruined by his hands. He had failed his father and the ancestors of the Gu family. Just then, his phone rang. It was Mrs. Gu calling. He hesitated for a moment, then answered. Tingshan, where are you now? Mrs. Goose's voice was full of anxiety. I just heard that Gu Corporation has run into major trouble. Suppliers and partners have withdrawn their investments. The company accounts have been frozen. Is it true, Mom? It's true. Gutting's voice was filled with fatigue and despair. Shinzi used the influence of the Shin Group to suppress us, and she even proposed calling an emergency shareholders meeting to remove me from the chairman position. That Shanzi. How can she be so heartless? Mrs. Gu trembled with anger. Tingshin, don't worry. Well, think of something. I'll go see Shinzi tomorrow and beg her to spare the Gu family. Mom, it's useless. Guing gave a bitter laugh. Shinzi has made up her mind to destroy Gu Corporation, even if you go to see her. She won't spare us. No, I have to try, Gu's mother said firmly. Gu Corporation is your father's life's work. It can't just be ruined like this. Tingshin, go home right now. We'll figure out a plan together. Gingshan had no choice but to agree to his mother, rose, and headed home. He knew that his mother going to see Shinzi would be of no avail, but he was already out of options and could only try a desperate measure. Meanwhile, in the study, Shinzi was discussing the restructuring plan for Gu Corporation with Shenzhe. Shinj looked at the report on the computer screen and said with satisfaction, Z, you made the right move. The shareholders of Gu Corporation are already wavering. If we present a reasonable restructuring plan at the emergency shareholders meeting, they'll definitely vote to support us. I want more than just their support. Shinzi looked out the window, her eyes full of determination. I want to completely ruin Gutting's reputation and make him pay a painful price for what he's done. Don't worry. I've already had people gather evidence of Gutting's embezzlement and tax evasion. Shinzi sneered. When the emergency shareholders meeting is held and we reveal that evidence, Gingshan will be finished. Just then, the butler came in and said respectfully, Mississippi Madam Gu is here. She says it's urgent and she wants to see you. Shinzi and Shinsi exchanged a glance, each seeing a trace of mockery in the other's eyes. They both knew that Madame Gu had come to see her for sure about matters concerning the Gu Corporation. Let her in, Shinzi said lightly. Not long after, Madame Gu entered the study following the housekeeper. Seeing Shinzi, she hurried forward with a sycophantic smile plastered on her face. Z, I know you're still angry, but Gu Corporation really can't be destroyed like this. That's Tingshin's father's life's work. For my sake, please spare Gu Corporation. Spare Tingshin. Madame Gu, you're joking. Shinzi put down her coffee cup. My acquiring Gu Corporation is a normal business move. There's no question of sparing or not. Besides, Gu Corporation ended up like this because of Ginkson himself. It has nothing to do with me. Yes, it's all Tingshin's fault. Madame Gu hurriedly said. I've already reprimanded him properly. He knows he was wrong. Z, please give Tingshin another chance. If you agree to spare Gu Corporation, we'll do whatever you ask. Anything I want. Shinzi raised an eyebrow, her eyes full of mockery. Madame Gu, what do you think I'm lacking? Money, power. I lack nothing. What I want is justice. Justice that Gyutning owes me. Justice owed to me by those 2 unborn children. At the mention of those 2 unborn children, Madame Goose's face immediately darkened, remorse filling her eyes. Z, I know you feel wronged, but the dead cannot be brought back. We are all very saddened that the children are gone, but you can't because of this. Destroy Tingshin. Destroy the Gu Corporation. Destroy him. Destroy the Gu Corporation. Shinzi laughed, tears coming to her eyes. Madame Gu, do you think that would be destroying him? He made me carry his children and give blood to another woman, causing my children to die in vain. His actions are 100, 1,000 times more cruel than that. Right now, I'm only letting him taste what it's like to lose everything. This is already the greatest mercy I've shown him. Madame Gu was left speechless and could only stand there awkwardly. She knew that this time, Shinzi truly would not let Gut Tingshin and the Gu Corporation off. Madame Gu, please go home. Shinzi issued the dismissal. We have other matters to attend to, so we won't be keeping you. Mrs. Gu had no choice but to leave the Shin family mansion in disappointment, watching her lonely back. Shinzi's gaze held not a trace of pity. She knew this was only the beginning. More dramatic things awaited Ginjin. 3 days later, Gu's extraordinary shareholders' meeting was held as scheduled. As the largest shareholder, Shinzi sat in the chair of honor. Gingen sat beside her, his face pale and his eyes hollow. After the meeting began, Lawyer Zhang first read aloud the restructuring plan proposed by Shenzi, including dismissing Guing from the position of chairman, having Shenzi assume the chairmanship of Gu Group and carrying out a comprehensive reshuffle of Gu Group's management. After the proposal was read aloud, the shareholders began to vote. As expected, the vast majority voted in favor of Shenzi's restructuring plan. Gingshan stared at the voting results, his body suddenly going limp as he slumped back in his chair. He knew he had utterly lost, defeated beyond redemption. Shinzi Rose looked at the shareholders in the audience and spoke clearly and firmly. From today on, I will officially serve as the chairman of the Gu Group. I promise everyone that under my leadership, the Gu Group will break free from its current difficulties and achieve glory once again. Warm applause broke out in the audience, and excited smiles appeared on the shareholders' faces. They knew that with Shinzi and the Shin Group's support, the Gu's future was full of hope. Gu Tingshin watched Shinzi on the stage, radiant and confident, and his heart filled with remorse and despair. He regretted not cherishing Shinzi back then, regretted being deceived by Su Ro's sweet words, and ending up with this fate. After the meeting, Gingen walked out of the Gu Group building alone. The sunlight was dazzling, yet he felt chilled all over. He looked up at the Gu Group sign, remembered his father's dying instructions, and finally couldn't hold back his tears. He knew his life was truly over on the Dean Z officially took over the Gu Group. The sky cleared, and a few white clouds drifted across the azure expanse. She wore a well-tailored white suit and high heels as she walked through the Gu Group's gates. The employees stood neatly on both sides and called in unison, "Greetings, Director Shin." She gave a slight nod, a composed smile on her face, her eyes firm and bright. The Shinzi who had once been meek and restrained before Gyuing had completely disappeared. Standing here, now, was the eyes of the Shin Group, who held power and controlled her own life. And the new chairman of the Gu, Lawyer Jean, placed a document in front of her. Chairman Shin, this is the verdict in Su Rose's case. She has been sentenced to 5 years imprisonment for multiple charges, including attempted murder, fraud, and defamation. Lin Na, as an accomplice, has been sentenced to 1 year's imprisonment. Shinzi picked up the verdict, flipped through a few pages, her expression entirely calm. 5 years behind bars was the punishment Suo deserved. She had paid the price for her greed and malice, and that was enough. What about Gingshan? Shinzi sat down the verdict and lifted the coffee on the desk. Taking a small sip, President Ge, lawyer Zhang hesitated. The embezzlement of company funds has been confirmed. Although Director Shin, you didn't pursue criminal charges against him. His reputation in the business world is completely ruined, and no company is willing to hire him. I heard he's now doing odd jobs to make ends meet. Madam Gu couldn't bear the shock. She had a stroke and was hospitalized, and all the family's burdens have fallen on him. Shinzi's fingers paused. She felt not an iota of pity. This was all Gooding's own doing. He had destroyed his own life with his own hands and ruined the Gu family's future. She thought of the 2 unborn children, of the grievances she had suffered, and felt that all of this was the retribution he deserved. He hasn't come to see me again, Shinzi asked. No. Lawyer Zhang shook his head. He hasn't shown up since the emergency shareholders meeting ended. I heard he has a very strong sense of pride, given the way things are now. He probably can't bear to face you. Shinzi nodded and said no more. She opened her laptop and began handling the Gu Corporation's files. Because of the previous turmoil, the Gu Group had left behind many messes. She needed to stabilize the company's situation as quickly as possible and win back the trust of partners. With the support of the Shin Group and Shenzi's careful management, the Gu Group's situation gradually improved. She first held a press conference to clarify the negative publicity surrounding the Gu Group, promising to strictly regulate the company's management and protect the interests of shareholders and employees. Then, she personally visited the suppliers and partners who had previously terminated cooperation, and with the Shining Group's reputation and her own sincerity, she regained their trust. A few months later, the Gu Group's first new project began construction smoothly. At the groundbreaking ceremony, Shinzi gave a speech as chairwoman. She stood on the stage looking out at the densely packed crowd below, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. This was a success she had earned by her own ability, unrelated to Gingshan or anyone else. After the ceremony, Shinzi stepped forward and smiled. Z, congratulations. Now, no one dares to look down on you anymore. Also, thank you, brother. Shinzi looped her arm through Shen's, her face showing a sincere smile. If it weren't for you and Mom and Dad supporting me, I wouldn't be where I am today. Silly girl, we're family. Supporting you is what we should do. Shinzi ruffled her hair. By the way, Mom asked me to ask you, are you coming home for dinner this weekend? She made the soup you love. I'll come. Of course, I'll come. Shinzi nodded. I haven't seen Mom and Dad in a long time. It's a good chance to go back and keep them company. That weekend, Shenzi returned to the Shin family ancestral home. The magnolia blossoms in the courtyard had already fallen, and fresh green leaves had sprouted. When Mrs. Shin saw her return, she immediately came out to meet her, taking her hand and fussing over her. Z, have you been working very hard lately? You look thinner. Mom, I'm fine, just a bit busy, Shinzi said with a smile. The company's matters have stabilized, so things will be much easier from now on. At the dinner table, Shin's father looked at Shinzi and nodded approvingly. Z, you're becoming more and more responsible. Dad is proud of you. Dad, I still have a lot to learn, Shinzi said humbly. Take your time, no rush, Shin's father said. By the way, there's a business reception next week. Many elites from the business world will attend. You should go too and meet more people. It will be good for the company's development. Shinzi nodded. All right, I'll listen to you. At the business cocktail reception, Shenzi wore an elegant evening gown and moved through the crowd. Her manners were poised in her conversation, generous, quickly drawing a lot of attention. Many business leaders came up to exchange business cards with her and praised her nonstop. Director Shin, I didn't expect someone so young to have managed Gu Corporation so well. Truly a promising young talent. An elderly man with graying hair said with a smile. He was a well-known real estate tycoon in the industry. Director Lee, you're flattering me. I still have many shortcomings and will need to learn from you in the future, Shenzi said politely. Just then, Shinzi saw a familiar figure. Genshin was wearing a suit faded from washing, standing in the corner of the party with a glass of cheap red wine in his hand. Looking out of place, He also saw Shensi. His eyes were full of complicated emotions: shame, remorse, and a faint, hard to detect envy. Shinzi ignored him and turned back to continue talking with the people around her. To her, Ginjin was already a thing of the past. Her life would no longer be disturbed by him. Watching Shinzi surrounded by the crowd, Gingshan was filled with regret. He recalled his past coldness and cruelty toward her, recalled everything he had lost because of Suo and his heart act. He wanted to step forward and apologize, but found he simply did not have the courage. He knew he no longer deserved to appear before her. Midway through the reception, Shensi received a phone call from the hospital. It was Gu's mother's attending physician. The doctor said Gu's mother's condition had suddenly worsened and urgently required a family member's signature for surgery. But Gingen had not shown up. Shensi hesitated for a moment, but still decided to go to the hospital, no matter what. Mrs. Gu had once been her mother-in-law. Although she had treated her poorly, she did not deserve to die. In the hospital, Mrs. Gu lay on the bed, her face pale and her breathing weak. When the attending doctor saw Shensi, he hurriedly said, "Miss Shin, you're here at last. Mr. Gu couldn't be reached, so we had to trouble you." Shinzi looked at Mrs. Gu on the bed and sighed inwardly. She took the surgical consent form from the doctor and signed her name. It wasn't that she had forgiven Mrs. Gu. She just didn't want to see a life vanish like that. The operation lasted 3 hours and finally ended successfully. The doctor came out of the operating room and told Shensi, "Miss Shin, the surgery was very successful. Mrs. Gu is out of danger." Shensi breathed a sigh of relief. Just as she was about to leave, she saw Gyutenshin come running over out of breath. He paused when he saw her, then lowered his head and said in a hoarse voice, "Thank you. Z, don't thank me. I just couldn't bear to see a life end like that." Shinzi said calmly, "You're Madame Gu's son. Take good care of her from now on, and don't make her worry about you anymore." Gingshan nodded, looked up at Shinzi, his eyes full of guilt and remorse. "Z, I know I've done many things that wronged you in the past. I'm not asking for your forgiveness. I only hope you'll be happy in the future. I will be." A relieved smile appeared on Shinzi's face. "I've let go of the past. My future will be very happy." Having said that, Shinzi turned and left the hospital. Stepping out of the hospital gate, the evening breeze brushed her hair. She took a deep breath and felt completely relieved. Those painful pasts, those sorrowful memories had already dissipated with the passage of time. Her life had finally welcomed a new beginning. A few months later, Gyurup's performance was booming, becoming a dark horse in the industry. Shinzi had also become a renowned businesswoman, respected and admired by many. One day, Shinzi was in her office handling documents when her secretary knocked and came in handing over an invitation. "Director Shin, this is an invitation to the International Women Entrepreneurs Summit. They invite you to attend as a special guest." Shensi took the invitation, opened it, and a happy smile appeared on her face. It was recognition of her abilities and also a new starting point in her life. She walked to the window and looked at the sunlight outside. The sunlight fell on her, warm and bright. She knew the darkness of the past had completely disappeared, and what awaited her was a future full of hope. She would carry the memory of the 2 unborn children with her, live well, and make her life extraordinary. Just then, her phone rang. It was Shinzi calling. "Z, I have good news for you. Mom and Dad are planning to take you on a trip abroad to relax." Shinzi's voice was full of laughter. "Really? That's great," Shinzi said happily. "I was just looking to get away and clear my head." "Of course, it's true." Shinzi said the plane tickets and hotel are already booked. "We leave next weekend." After hanging up, Shinzi felt exceptionally happy. She knew her life was only just beginning. She would carry her family's love and support and bravely move forward to welcome the beautiful future that belonged to her. As for Gewing, after experiencing all of this, he finally had a sudden awakening. He worked odd jobs while caring for his mother who had suffered a stroke and strove to make amends for his past mistakes. Although his life could never return to what it was, at least he understood what responsibility and duty meant. Sue spent every day in prison consumed by remorse. She finally understood that greed and malice only lead to one's destruction. Unfortunately, she realized it far too late. All grievances have settled into dust, and all wounds have slowly healed. Shinzi stood at a new starting point in life, facing the sunlight and striding forward. Her future was filled with infinite possibilities. Extra, the autumn air of New York soaked the glass facades of the skyscrapers. Shensi stood on the terrace of the International Women Entrepreneurs Summit Hall, holding a glass of champagne. The evening breeze carried the scent of fallen leaves from Central Park in the distance. She looked down at the glittering streets below, and the applause from the forum moments earlier still rang in her ears. Her speech on corporate social responsibility and female leadership had become the most talked about topic of the entire summit. "Director Shin, I didn't expect to see you here." A familiar voice came from behind. Shinzi turned and saw Director Lee approaching with a sharply dressed, middle-aged man. "This is Mr. Chin. He does multinational medical investment and has been wanting to talk with you about Goose Group's layout in the health and wellness industry." While exchanging handshakes and pleasantries, Shinzi's gaze casually swept to the entrance of the venue, and her steps suddenly paused. A man in a gray work uniform was pushing a cleaning cart past. His sleeves were rolled up to reveal sturdy forearms, and the profile of his face faintly resembled Gutting Shin, only more composed than when she last saw him at the party. The fine lines at his eyes, no longer impatient, but carrying a warmth honed by life. Mr. Chin followed her gaze and said casually, "The venue's cleaning staff were recommended by the local Chinese association. I heard many of them do odd jobs to support their children's schooling. It's not easy." Shinzi withdrew her gaze. The champagne glass at her fingertips grew cool, yet she felt calm and untroubled. Director Lee seemed to recognize Gingshin and murmured, "Isn't this Mr. Gu from the old Gu Corporation? How come everyone has their own path to follow?" Shinzi cut him off, her tone indifferent. "Let's talk about the cooperation details for the wellness project. The telemedicine technology Mr. Chin mentioned earlier interests me." Her attention naturally returned to work. Her poised bearing in every gesture made Director Lee and Mr. Chin admire her quietly. Today Shensi was no longer the small woman trapped in a marriage. Her world contained corporate blueprints and the industry's future. Past grievances had long been cast far behind her. Gingen had actually noticed Shensi long before. When he pushed the cleaning cart past the venue, he immediately recognized the figure surrounded by people. She wore a champagne-colored velvet evening gown, her hair loosely pinned at the back of her head. When she smiled, the curve at the corner of her eye was still gentle, but there was a light he had never seen before, a brilliance nourished by career and confidence, the treasure he had once personally set in motion. The wheels of the cleaning cart rolled over the carpet, making a faint sound. He straightened his back instinctively and smoothed the crease at his cuff. A few months earlier, after Goose's mother's illness stabilized, he had asked a Chinese community organization and found this temporary job at the summit venue. The pay was decent, and he could also listen to a few business forms for free. He knew he no longer had the qualifications to return to the business world, but he kept thinking to learn more, perhaps to help his mother's small grocery store expand some online business in the future. "Brother Gu, can you empty this trash for me?" A venue attendant ran over and handed him a black tub full of empty wine glasses. Guing took it, and as he turned, he met Shensi's gaze. He was momentarily stunned, then showed a slightly awkward smile. Not flattering, not ashamed, just a peaceful greeting. Shensi gave a small nod with no extra expression and turned back to continue her conversation with Mr. Chin as if she had merely run into an ordinary old acquaintance. Guing pushed the cleaning cart away, his heart untroubled. He remembered the video call last week when his mother, holding the phone, had said, "Z asked someone to send a massager, saying it's good for my legs and feet." That child, at the time, he had only pressed and rubbed his mother's shoulders in silence, clear in his mind that Shensi's kindness was never a cheap forgiveness, but that she had long since stood on higher ground and no longer cared about past gains or losses. That afternoon, after the summit ended, Shinsi's assistant handed her a file. Director Shin, this is a plea for help from the local Chinese community. They say a single mother has a serious illness and her child is facing dropping out of school. They want to start a fundraising drive. Shinzi flipped through the file and suddenly noticed Gutening's name on the volunteer list on the attached page, with a note beside it. Responsible for material transport, has donated 3 months' salary. She raised an eyebrow slightly and signed the document. Donate a sum in the name of Gu Corporation and contact our partner hospital to arrange the best treatment team for this mother. The assistant was a little surprised. In the name of Gu Corporation. Gu Corporation's foundation shoulders some social responsibility now, Shensi said as she closed the file. Also, send over my set of unused children's picture books. Give them to that child. A week later, while organizing donated goods at the community service center, Gingen saw the box of brand new picture books. There was no signature on the title page, only a line of gold embossed small print. Every child deserves the right to look up at the stars. Holding the book, he suddenly remembered when Shinzi was pregnant. She had excitedly told him she wanted to create a room full of books for the child. He had been busy accompanying Sue to pick out a birthday present and had dismissed her words peremptorily. Brother Gu, this batch of supplies was donated by Gu Corporation. I heard Director Shin even arranged the hospital herself. The community leader said as he approached, handing him a cup of hot water. You have to admit Director Shin is a good person. Back then you and she well, but things are fine now. You live a steady life and her career keeps growing. Ting Shin took the hot water. His fingertips felt warm. He watched the children playing outside and suddenly smiled. He finally understood that some missed opportunities are not for regret, but for waking oneself up to carry every responsibility on his shoulders from then on, and to keep every kindness in his heart on the flight back to the country. Shensi gazed at the endless sea of clouds outside. The window, she received a photo from her brother on her phone. The courtyard of the Shin family old home was planted full of magnolia trees, a variety she had specially had transplanted, whose blooming season was longer than before. In the photo, her parents were sitting under the trellis, drinking tea, their smiles gentle. She leaned back in her seat and gently closed her eyes. Past pains were like the layers of clouds the plane passed through, ultimately left behind, while ahead of her awaited wider mountains and seas, warmer sunlight, and a future that belonged to her alone, stretching out without limit. That weekend, Gingen brought donated supplies to visit the single mother. The child hugged a new picture book and sweetly called him Uncle Gu. He crouched down and patiently told the child the stories from the book. Sunlight streamed through the window and cast a soft halo around him. The mountains and seas are vast. Everyone moves forward on their own course. Shinzi's radiance and Gutting's composure became the most fitting forms in time. No one dependent on another, each on their own path, each at peace.